Deacon Tun lay in a hospital bed with thick bandages wrapped around his arms and face. A steady beat from the machine by his side echoed through the small room. Amaka stood at the foot of the bed, tears streaming down her cheeks. Guilt weighed on her like a heavy stone, for she knew this terrible moment was her own doing. Amaka was born in Lagos, Nigeria, under difficult circumstances. Her mother passed away from complications after giving birth, leaving Deacon Tun to raise their only child alone. He was a devout Christian, serving as a deacon at a growing church in Surulere. Despite his humble salary and countless responsibilities, Deacon Tun did everything to give Amaka the best life possible. From the time she could walk, Amaka followed her father everywhere: church gatherings, choir practice, and even neighborhood outreach programs. Her father's love filled the gap left by her mother's absence. Whenever Amaka missed her mother, she took comfort in her father's strong arms. Their bond was so close that friends joked they were more like best friends than father and daughter. As Amaka grew older, her father saved enough money to enroll her in a private secondary school. She excelled in her studies and spent every evening at home, chatting with her father about her day. They never missed their nightly ritual: a simple dinner, a shared prayer, and a light conversation about the future. Amaka always felt safe and loved. But everything changed when Amaka gained admission into a reputable university on the outskirts of Ibadan. This school was a 2-hour drive from Lagos, and she had to live on campus. The thought of being away from her father made her anxious, but Deacon Tund insisted it was the right choice. "My dear," he said, "education is important. I'll visit you often, and you can always call me. Trust me, you'll be fine." Amaka tried to stay positive. She promised herself that this temporary separation would only make her relationship with her father stronger. She spoke to him every evening, and he visited her once or twice a month. Still, she could not shake the feeling of missing him every day. One semester break, Amaka returned home for a short holiday. She walked into the living room expecting her father's warm hug, but instead, she saw a beautiful woman sitting on the couch. The stranger stood up and smiled. "Hi, you must be Amaka. I'm Saad, your dad's friend." Amaka forced a smile and greeted her politely, but inside, her heart pounded with anger and confusion. "Who is this woman?" she thought. "Dad never told me he had a girlfriend." Deacon Tund, sensing tension in the air, took Amaka aside. "My dear," he began gently, "this is Saad. We've been seeing each other for a few months. I wanted to tell you in person, but you've been busy with school." Amaka pretended to understand, but her mind raced with jealousy. She believed her father was hers alone. She saw Saad as an intruder trying to break their special bond. At first, Amaka acted friendly toward Saad. They talked about fashion, music, and the best fast food joints in Lagos. Saad was a manager at a travel agency, often telling stories about clients who traveled to Dubai or London. Deacon Tund looked happy whenever he saw them chatting. Yet behind Amaka's warm smiles, a plan was forming. She wanted Saad out of her father's life. One morning, while Saad was out shopping, Amaka sneaked into her room. She rummaged through Saad's handbag and found nothing unusual, just a wallet, keys, some receipts. She closed the bag, frustrated. Then, an idea struck her. Amaka collected a few small church offering envelopes from her father's desk and placed them carefully inside Saad's bag. She scribbled random amounts on them to make it look like Saad had been stealing funds from the church. That evening, when Saad returned, Deacon Tund noticed some envelopes poking out of Saad's bag. "What is this?" he asked, puzzled. He opened them and saw the suspicious handwriting. Saad's cheeks burned with embarrassment. "Tund, I don't know how they got there," she protested. "I've never stolen anything from the church." Amaka stood in a corner, feigning shock. Deacon Tund was deeply upset. He believed Saad might be lying. His position at the church was very important to him, and he did not want any scandal. After a heated argument, Saad left the house in tears. Amaka pretended to be sad, but inside she felt victorious. Now it's just me and Dad again. Months passed. Amaka returned to school for another semester. She and her father stayed in touch through phone calls, but she noticed a new kind of distance in his voice. He no longer told her every detail of his life. When she came home during the next school holiday, she found Deacon Tun chatting happily with another woman in the living room. Her name was Debbie, a warm and friendly lady who worked as a school teacher in Yaba. Debbie approached Amaka with a wide smile. "You must be Amaka. Your dad talks about you all the time. It's so nice to meet you. Again." Amaka forced a smile. Why can't Dad just stay single? She thought bitterly. But Debbie was different from Saad. She was patient and kind, often inviting Amaka to join her for lunch. She brought small gifts, snacks, books, and even a pair of matching bracelets. "We can wear them together," Debbie suggested. Amaka thanked her, but on the inside, she was determined to remove her. She started looking for a weakness she could exploit. One day, while helping Debbie rearrange some books on a shelf, Amaka noticed a file that contained medical reports. Debbie was diabetic. That evening, Amaka moved quickly. She sneaked into the kitchen and added extra sugar to the stew Debbie was cooking for dinner. Then she cleared all evidence before anyone noticed. At dinner, Debbie ate her meal and soon began to feel dizzy. She excused herself, staggering toward the bedroom. Deacon Tund rushed after her. "Oh no, Debbie's sugar level might be too high," Deacon Tund said in panic. He helped her check her blood sugar, and it was indeed through the roof. Debbie suspected something was off with the meal, but she had no proof. Deacon Tund grew worried about Debbie's health. He gently suggested that perhaps it was best if Debbie moved out and focused on her well-being. Debbie left, heartbroken and confused. Once again, Amaka felt a twisted sense of satisfaction, though a small voice in her heart whispered that this was cruel and unfair. She pushed the guilt away, telling herself she was protecting her father. Life carried on. Deacon Tun became quieter, spending more evenings alone in prayer. Amaka continued her studies and visited home whenever she could. Over time, she noticed her father seemed lonely, but also cautious about bringing anyone around her. That changed when Deacon Tund met Ada, a strong-willed woman who worked as a project manager in Lekki. Ada was independent, driven, and unafraid of confrontation. She had a warm nature, but a sharp eye. From the day Amaka met her, she sensed Ada could see through her. "Amaka, it's a pleasure to finally meet you," Ada said with a calm smile. "Your dad talks about you every day." At first, Amaka tried her usual tricks. She searched Ada's room, hoping to find anything she could twist into a scandal. She found nothing suspicious. She tried to spread small lies, telling her father that Ada was rude or spent his money recklessly. But Ada always had clear evidence to defend herself. Amaka grew more frustrated. She wanted Ada gone. She recalled that Ada suffered from serious asthma, a condition that required an inhaler. "Maybe I can use this to my advantage," Amaka thought. One weekend, Ada came over to spend time with Deacon Tund and Amaka. They planned to watch a popular Nollywood movie together. Amaka pretended to be friendly, even offering to make popcorn. Later that night, when everyone was asleep, Amaka crept into her father's bedroom. She lit a small candle near an open window, hoping the smoke would drift toward Ada's room and trigger her asthma. "Just a little scare," she whispered to herself, "then Dad will see she's not fit to stay here." Amaka returned to her room, leaving the candle burning. She had no idea the strong Legos breeze would knock the candle over. The flame spread quickly to a stack of newspapers on the floor. In minutes, the fire spread to the curtains. Black smoke filled the house. Ada woke up coughing, struggling to breathe. She groped for her inhaler, but collapsed as smoke filled her lungs. Deacon Tund, sleeping in another room, woke to the smell of burning fabric. He rushed out and saw the flames. He spotted Ada lying on the floor and dashed through the smoke to help her, covering her face with a wet towel. He dragged her toward the front door. The fire licked at his arms and face, leaving terrible burns. Amaka, realizing the gravity of her plan gone wrong, screamed for help. Neighbors rushed over and managed to control the fire before the entire building was destroyed. An ambulance took Deacon Tund and Ada to the hospital. Hours later, Amaka found herself in the hospital corridor, shaking with fear. Doctors rushed in and out, carrying bandages and drips. Her heart pounded as she replayed the scene in her mind. Why did I do this? She wondered, tears in her eyes. All I wanted was my father's love. A nurse finally let her into Deacon Tund's room. Seeing him wrapped in bandages tore her heart apart. Ada lay in another room, recovering from a severe asthma attack and mild burns. The doctor said both were lucky to be alive. Deacon Tund's voice was weak but stern. Amaka, what happened? The candle, why was it lit so close to the window? That wasn't a normal place for it. Amaka burst into tears, confessing everything. She told him how she had framed Saad, tampered with Debbie's food, spread lies about Ada, and finally set the candle in hopes of driving Ada away. Her father closed his eyes as tears slipped down his cheeks. I never thought my own daughter could go this far, he said softly. You have broken my trust, and you have hurt innocent people. Why? Amaka fell to her knees. I'm sorry, Dad. I didn't want to lose you. After Mom died, it was just us. I was scared someone else would take you away from me. Despite his pain, Deacon Tund gently reached for her hand. I love you, Amaka, he whispered. That love will never change. But you must understand that love can expand. Me loving someone else doesn't reduce my love for you. In the days that followed, Amaka visited Ada's hospital room. She feared Ada would lash out at her, but Ada only said, I'm disappointed, but we all make mistakes. If you truly want to make things right, start by accepting help. Amaka realized she needed guidance. She spoke to a counselor at the hospital who specialized in family conflicts. Through sessions, she discovered her deep-rooted fear of abandonment. She admitted she felt lonely at the university, missing her father's presence. With time, Amaka gathered the courage to reach out to the women she had wronged. Saad, Amaka called her, explaining the fake church envelopes. Saad was shocked, but eventually forgave her, wishing her peace and healing. Debbie. Amaka wrote her a heartfelt letter, confessing she had added sugar to her meal. Debbie replied with sadness, but also offered prayers for Amaka's growth. Ada. Already in hospital care, Ada forgave Amaka, but reminded her of the importance of trust. Deacon Tund faced challenges of his own. The church members were shocked to learn of the house fire and his injuries. He had to take a break from his duties as a deacon while he healed, but he refused to abandon his daughter. Every day, he asked a neighbor to drive him to the therapy center where Amaka was receiving counseling. They prayed together, read short Bible verses, and talked openly about their feelings. Amaka also returned to the university for her final year, but she chose to see a counselor on campus as well. She began to understand that her father's love for another woman did not erase the special connection they shared. 6 months later, Deacon Tund's burns had partially healed, though some scars remained on his arms and face. Ada's health improved, and she maintained her asthma treatments. Despite everything that happened, the two decided to stay together and work on their relationship. They invited Amaka to join them for a small Thanksgiving service at church. She attended nervously, fearing judgment. To her surprise, the church members welcomed her with warm hugs. It seemed her father had shared the story of her mistakes and her efforts to change. Instead of shaming her, they embraced her, offering support. After the service, the three returned to a newly rented apartment much smaller than the old house, but cozy. Deacon Tund was eager to show Amaka her room. We can start fresh here, he said, smiling. Amaka looked around at the neat, simply furnished space. Tears gathered in her eyes as she realized how lucky she was. "Dad, I'm so sorry for all the pain I caused." He pulled her into a gentle hug. "I forgive you," he whispered. "But remember, trust takes time to rebuild. Let's be open with each other from now on." Ada joined them, placing a kind hand on Amaka's shoulder. "I hope we can learn to respect and care for each other. I may never be your mother, but I can still be someone you trust and depend on." Amaka nodded. "I understand, and I'm ready to try." The next day, Amaka woke up early. She walked into the living room to find her father brewing a pot of tea. Ada was busy sending emails for her project at work. It felt strange, yet peaceful, to be together without any secrets lurking in the shadows. When Amaka thought back on everything, her jealousy, her sabotage, the fire, she shuddered. She realized how fear had driven her to hurt others. She now knew that true love is big enough to include many people. It doesn't become smaller when shared. As she sipped her tea, Amaka smiled at her father's bandaged arm and Ada's inhaler on the table. These were signs of a painful past, but they were also reminders of a future built on honesty and acceptance. She had been given a second chance to cherish her father's love without destroying his happiness. She turned to them, her voice steady. "Thank you both for giving me another chance." Deacon Tund walked over and patted her shoulder gently. "We're a family, Amaka. Families learn from their mistakes, forgive, and grow stronger." Ada nodded, meeting Amaka's eyes. "Let's keep moving forward. Together." In that moment, Amaka felt a weight lift from her heart. She knew the road ahead would not be easy, but she was willing to walk it with courage and an open heart, ready to build a healthier relationship with her father and with herself.